It's movie time, and we're back again with movie time. Hey, everybody! And I'm your host, Grayson, and they cannot keep a good show down. Not even if they switch us on our channels. We will just switch it back again. But we are back, and it is Wednesday's movie time. And with me, of course, is my co-host, Arpo. Hey, Arpo, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Look really good in this coffee tonight.
He's in the lost cabin in the woods, folks. He's still trapped in there. Now, did you ever wonder why he didn't get out the door of his cabin in the woods? That's because he can't. He cannot leave this cabin in the woods, people. We must get money into our crowdfunding campaign just to get him out of the cabin in the woods.
Please.
Yeah.
Please. I'm suffering. So bad.
Yeah. And tonight we have a jam-packed movie time for all of you.
Man. Peanut butter and jam-packed.
Oh, yeah. Well, is that happening tomorrow? Or Friday?
Friday.
Yes. We will not be on the air Friday because essentially I will be in transit on Friday. So, and Olaf and
program while she's actually driving a car, which strikes me as being a pretty solid plan.
Yes, as well as also, Olaf himself is right now at Harvest Homecoming. Hey, Olaf from Harvest Homecoming. Hopefully that you're doing really, really well.
I already got electric Harvest Homecoming clean.
Yeah, and bring us some Harvest Homecoming cool things when you come and see us.
Bring us some grog.
Bring us some grog.
Well, bring us some the corn that they roast on the pan and they dip it into the big barrel of melted butter. Oh, I love that.
Yep. So there you go. And now tonight, let's start with our first story, which is actually a really cool, fun one. What would we like to start with? So the story that never ends? Or our
it's just a story that never ends. We have to save it for the end.
Yes. So let's start off with our first story, talking about the 7 Hollywood gatekeepers on what they're looking for in a script.
What?
Now let's talk about this. Okay. Have you ever been curious of what gatekeepers are actually looking for in a script? Well, this is essentially an article for you. It comes from vulture.com, and they spoke to 7 of the Hollywood's refined gatekeepers that have done quite a few movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, About Mother, different movies from different gatekeepers who have read these scripts. Okay, the gatekeeper is the person who basically is the reader before you actually get to the person you want to get to, i.e. the producer, or in some cases, like with an actor, their agent, you have to go through their gatekeeper first, i.e. their assistant. For all intents and purposes.
They're the ones who have to read all the crap. And
yes.
Give the higher-ups only the stuff that they feel is worthy.
Then they move it forward to the agent or to the producer.
Which
and then that
includes anything that any of our listeners right.
Correct. And readers also can give you a pass, a fail, a recommend, any of these things. It's like, if they give you a pass, it's not necessarily a bad thing because that's an opinion in regards to it. If they give you a fail, it means that your script needs a hell of a lot of work, and why are you bothering me with this? And recommend is usually the, okay, this is, yes, that's your golden ticket to your direct person there. Yes. Currently, we are having experience with the recommend. So, yes. But that's us, and we are not talking about us. We are talking about industry in general. Yes. So you want to get to the gatekeeper. You want to love the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is your friend.
That's right.
And now you're going to get inside the gatekeeper's heads. Now, I'm not going to name the gatekeeper. It's like you will be able to read these articles yourself. Gatekeeper number 1. Let's call him Mr. M, shall we?
Mr. M. Looking good, too.
Yes. Mr. M was asked scripts that are most interesting to them. And he says, I ask myself, will the characters and the story stand the test of time? And is this a resonant story of a moment in the world?
Catherine. 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 I heard peeping. So you know. She's on Jeremy Piven's new show.
Yes, we have our wonderful guest with us also, Catherine Swan, just in case that you guys all didn't hear that in the background.
Yes.
And she will make a guest appearance perhaps on the camera this time. So basically, it's like asking myself those things. And I tend to look for some fresh things that surprise me. And he goes on to explain some of the works that he has come across. Now, Mr. M was asked, what is the most annoying trend in screenwriting? And he said, American screenplays tend to be very long in the way that they are really irritating. Screenplays we get from the European writers, like, and I'm not going to name the person, are also irritating when 15 to 20 pages, you're still like, what's this all about? What's going on? Now, I can tell you from reading scripts, it's like I will absolutely concur with that. If you have 100 pages of good versus 120 pages of schlock, or when it takes you up to page 50 to finally get what is going on and why, Houston, there is a problem.
Let me just start by saying that if your script is 220 pages, it's probably not going to get read to begin with.
Yes. Now, he was asked the budget for a movie, and he says it's always on our minds. We often say, holy mackerel, there's no way that it can be made for this. Because nowadays, we only invest in screenplays that are about a third of the time. So this article is basically, so what am I looking for in an ending? I have seen so many films that if they don't send the audience off on a high note or have the right punctuation at the end, it really hurts by word of mouth. A good ending is vital. So
by the way, you forgot who's turning us. Horror movies.
Yes. He is turned off by horror movies. But he's a whole huge...
I only brought that up because you're going to see a trend as this
yes.
thing continues.
Now, with this whole thing with horror movies, let's preface this. They're not talking about horror movies in general. They're talking some of them very stylized horror movies.
Yeah.
Some of them, it really is horror movies in general. They just don't like them. And you know what? That's also a preference. So now we're going to go on to someone who is a horror fan.
Yes.
So to speak.
Very much so. Really, once again, not naming the name, but someone who was very well known in the beginning of his career of giving a chance to horror movies that other studios wouldn't touch.
Yes. And we'll call him Captain J.
Captain J.
So basically, he was also asked, what's one of the annoying trends of screenwriting? Self-referential comedies whose characters comment on what's going on in the movie. It's a cutesy style of writing that winks at the audience. We're in on the joke. Okay. So now this is again preferential thing. He's not saying don't write in a third party, but he is like, it's a style, but not a style he's a fan of. Captain
And
J is
he also points out that there are very few writers who can get away with it.
exactly. Woody Allen would be a very good one of this style to be able to do that. He has written in third party of first experience. So essentially, he's a good one to look at if you are ever looking at a screenplay in third party of a first experience.
Yeah.
Okay, should a script follow a traditional format? Now, this is an interesting answer because this is also a theme that's gone on with a couple of others. And he says, not at all. Almost everything we've done, starting with one of the shows that he did, breaks the mold with 80 minutes and 45 first acts. Okay, so what he's basically saying is that no, it doesn't always have to follow a format, but it does have to follow a formula.
Yeah. I mean, basically, he's saying here's an 80-minute movie, or essentially nothing happened for the first 45 minutes.
Yes, or 45 vignettes that led up to a plot in the end. And the script based on pre-existing source material makes me feel very mixed. Obviously, the most successful movies in the summer were superhero movies. It's like, as much as people are disdained of these, it's what the audience are showing up to see. If I'm making a $100 million movie, I'd like to be doing the same thing. I do think rebooting horror movie franchises are more forgiving than others. So basically what he's saying is, yeah, it depends on the source material. Now, frankly, there are source materials, we can go over that in a different show, that honest to goodness really should be a movie. But yes, he's saying essentially graphic novels are a wonderful thing to do. And I'm just saying that certain things that I read when I was younger would also make great movies of today. Now, my go-to way of telling someone that they don't like a script. Now, this is a very huge theme on a lot of people's parts of how do you reject a script. Well, there really isn't a positive. There is a positive way of rejecting it because don't forget that script reading is subjective. And this is essentially what they all say about that. It's like I have strong feelings about this because I'm often on the receiving side of passes. But I have two rules. Respond quickly, chalk it up to personal taste. And if you say personally you don't like something, no one can argue with that. Sadly, most of Hollywood doesn't pass like that, and it drives me bananas. Okay, so essentially, yeah, the polite way of saying is, you know what, in my opinion, it just doesn't work for me. Another way I like to express it to people is I will explain to them what I don't like about something and say, really, in essence, if I can find that many things in there that I don't like, I'm probably not your audience that you would want to target anyway. Because even if you improved all of that stuff, I'm probably not the person who you want looking at your project.
Yeah, you're picky to begin with.
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm very picky to begin with. Two rules that I will remind people in terms of script writers, and please listen to these rules carefully because they are hard and fast rules. Please do not tell actors how to act and directors how to direct. And please do not tell the cameraman how to point their camera. Cameraman or camerawoman, how to point their camera.
Nope. Some specific shot that's very important for the moment of the film, but otherwise, yeah, pretty much who's the camera work to the cameraman.
Yes, unless it's absolutely an essential thing, or if the character has to move that way in order to further it along. But really, the action and dialogue that you do should be able to indicate to any actor what exactly it is that they should be saying and how they should be saying it in terms of inflection. There are 50,000 ways I know to say a sentence, but when you're telling them smilingly, happily, adorably, annoyed, angry, you're taking away really essentially from the actor their freedom of being able to give breadth and depth to your character.
Yeah, but bottom line, if the emotion of the scene doesn't tell the actor how to deliver the line, then you need to rewrite the scene.
Yes. And essentially, if I cannot visualize it as a director through your through what you have been telling me, and not be able to visualize the scene, then there's something wrong with the scene as to why I can't describe where the person moved or be able to visualize it, what kind of shots I'd be using for this. Because man points gun at man number 2. The gun is aimed at the gun is aimed at his head. Man number 2 says, "Please don't shoot me." Gunman number 1 drops the gun all of a sudden. Third person behind him has come in. "I told you I finish all the jobs." There's the scene. If I can't, it's like if you can't figure out from that what how the person walked in, entered the room, don't know how to shoot it, then it's like that scene pretty much a self-description of how of what you're going to need to focus in on.
Indeed.
So again, don't tell a director how to direct. Do not tell an actor how to act. As opposed to saying, person 1 is pointing gun. We see POV of gun at person number 2's head. Person number 2 has scared expression on their face as gun is pointed to their head and yells in a quivering voice, "Please don't shoot me." It's like, okay, first of all, as an actor, maybe they're brave. Maybe this character's like, yeah, please don't shoot me. And then person is dropping the gun by person number 3 from behind. Yeah, again, it's like if you're being that descriptive, or person number 1 is a man in his 40s who has a limp with a thick Irish accent, who's pointing a gun at, it's like, again, these all belong in character descriptions. I don't need to know their entire life story while I'm trying to read what the plot is.
Yeah. And you don't need these detailed descriptions of what the characters look like, because guess what? The actors that are probably not going to look that way anyway.
Yes. And you know what?
Unless it's something that's important to the plot, like, the character has to be an old man.
Yes.
But you keep it generic, don't get bogged down in the details. Because when they're reading a script, they don't care about the details. They care about the story.
And believe me, on a shooting script, when it's like, which is different than the actual script that goes through all of these passes, a shooting script, it's like you're going to have the character descriptions in your Bible anyway. And you're going to have all of those details in your Bible, as well as your shot lists, your notes, and all of that as a director. As an actor, you're going to already have a character profile for yourself on top of the character profile that's there, because in essence, when you are embodying a character, you have it in your head already, a whole background for them that even the writer did not remember how to write. So again, don't bog down in details. Keep it breadth and depth. So using gatekeeper number 3's one. Gatekeeper number 3, we're gonna call her Mrs. B. Mrs. B. Now, Mrs. B says, "Stories I most want to tell right now are heartful, sincere, and hopeful. The world can feel bleak sometimes. So so if you want to feel better, walking out of the theater than you did when you're walking in? Well, yes, in essence, there are three ways that you want to walk in. Oh my God, I was emotionally crushed by this movie because it's like it invoked an emotion for me. It invoked a discussion for me because I learned something and I wanted to talk about it. Or I walked out of the theater going, oh my God, I feel 50 pounds lighter. I really needed something that just, took me away from my day. So, yeah, you want to be able, if you're walking out of the theater and all you're hearing is dead silence, your movie has failed. If it has invoked nothing. If I'm walking out of the theater, I don't see any looks on any people's face of, oh my God, that was so good. It kind of look like that. Oh my, like that so relieved look. Or the, oh goodness, wow, that was really amazing. I'm trying to digest all of that kind of look. Or if they're like, oh my God, that was like the most saddest thing in the entire world. I can cry right now and melt into buckets of tears. Or it invoked some other emotion. Or, oh my God, if I could just get that guy off the screen, I would like punch the living bejesusness out of him. Which will happen later on, by the way. We'll be emotionally punching for cheesiness. Okay, so basically, that's what you're looking at. Now, most annoying trends in screenwriting, violence for violence sake. And I do have to say, Miss B is right about that, Mrs. B. Why have violence for violence sake?
Because you can.
Well, you can, but in essence, it's like it really isn't the right thing to do. Some of the most predominant trends and some of the most promising ones. Scripts that show empowering female characters with sincerity and complexity. I don't need another story about a woman that doesn't run deeper than the romantic woes of her petty differences. Well, yes, that is essentially correct. If you're going to write a movie with a strong character, whether it be male or female, write some depth. Nobody likes superficial characters. Have something that's a character that's relatable in quality. That's scriptural in terms of characters. Nobody wants a throwaway character.
Especially the character themselves.
Yes. Because then why did you write them if they were just going to be a character that's dispensable? If they don't further a plot line, if they don't serve a purpose, you may as well cut that character from the entire story. Because they are what's known as filler.
Fans, I apologize for eating during the show, but it's been a long day.
Now, it makes me want to throw a script across the room when someone's attempting to write for kids and making them sound feel less intelligent and frankly lame. My favorite movie for kids are still things that I admire today because they have smart, engaging characters. And you know what, Mrs. B, you are absolutely right on that. If you're going to write for children, think in the head of a child. Or think of yourself as a grown-up shrunk down to a child level. You do not need to write it as though that the child is a kindergartner unless that's exactly the character. So really it does matter. So now we'll go on to our next gatekeeper. And we'll call him Mr. D. How about that?
Is he married to Mrs. B?
Nope, Mr. D.
Oh, Mr. D. Oh.
Yes. Mr. D. Now, what does he want most to tell a story right now? He says, I love escapism. But what gets me really excited are true life stories, movies like I did with, I won't talk about the movies that he did. You'll have to read this article. So he wants real life stories, something that is really exciting. Something that actually is graspable. Now, Here's the age-old question: does spelling and grammar count? You know what? That's actually a very subjective term for a lot of people. But yes, to a lot of people, spelling and grammar does count. But to Mr. D, he says not very much. By the time a script reaches me, it's rare that you run into grammar and spelling problems. But if I'm digging the script, I'll forgive any number of typos. Those are easy to fix, and fixing themes, plots, and character is not. And again, Mr. D, I will be very happy to say, yes, you are correct on that. Because really, it doesn't matter. So, existing IPs of work, and he says, you know what, it really depends. He's working on a new version of a different thing right now, of a TV series based on a comic. So he again has varying opinions. And he says his go-to way of telling people that they don't like the script, he says, I usually say great work, but it's not for me. If you're a writer, getting a phone call back is at all is a victory. We're all up Schitt's Creek if we don't keep writers at least a tiny little bit happy. Well, what he's essentially saying is that, you know what, if you do receive a script, give feedback as soon as possible. Because no feedback really does eat at a writer. Even if the answer is not for me, you know what? Well worth it to do for that person. Now, which brings us to Madam H.
Oh, Madam H.
Madam H. Now, what's she most interested in? Anything new and strange as long as it's intelligent and emotionally honest. Genre she's turned off by? Guess what? She's turned off by.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say horror.
Yes. Mostly because I think it's one of the genres that has done the best at both to utilize subversive and established tropes. And just not nearly as well versed in it for the quintessential great movie of that genre. And you know what? That's great. You know, she's just not into that and is very, direct with it. And what does she look for an ending? I used to talk to colleagues about the idea of parking lot ending, the thing you're debating in the excited way when you're still in the parking lot in the theater. So I want all the satisfaction and more questions. See, again, if you're not talking about the movie, then the movie hasn't done what it needs to do. Ooh, this one in this sixth gatekeeper is a very famous gatekeeper. Was also a head of a studio at one point in time.
Yes, we'll call her Dominatrix M.
Yes. And what did she
because
say?
She's that big.
She is. It's like, so what's she looking for right now? Stories that run perpendicular to the political narratives, but still shed light on it, and stories that reveal something that is moving and deep about the characters. So for her, it's like she is a grammar person. She likes grammar and spelling things. You know, she thinks a writer is suspect if the script isn't spell checked. And as an ex-editor, grammar is important, except obviously in dialogue, because that is something that also that a lot of people tend to overlook. Yeah, some characters, they have purposely bad dialogue and must be written that way.
Yeah, really bad. Because you know what? Most people don't speak good grammar.
Exactly.
And they don't put sentences together good.
Yes. And she says, like, what's she looking for in an ending? Relief and resolution of something, if not everything. It depends on the genre. It's like, again, but always remember that your test numbers are highly determined by the feeling at the end of the movie. I learned this from working on another movie that will remain anonymous. Again, must read the article. So then it comes down to this final one, which we'll call him Billy. Mr. Bill.
Oh no! He's
Yes.
not my friend.
Yeah, and Mr. Bill says he's most interested right now in are those that are authentically representing the perspective and lifestyles of cultures and struggles and the joys of real people. So he likes real people movies. Again, just like others. Most annoying trend is less about the lack of creativity from the writer's perspective than it is about the financier studios and distributions that are pushing writers to write. So in other words, if the story is forced, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Potential diversity in cast, well, reading quite a bit. He enjoys that. So his go-to way of saying that he doesn't like the script, I try to respond as quickly as possible, and I have a lot of respect for writers, so I treat them as such, and I'm interacting with them. If it's saying I can't move forward with this with your project, I have such an appreciation for how you have done the work and how hard you've worked for it. So basically, in other words, that they're telling you in a nice, polite way, but essentially saying the exact same thing. Thank you, but no thank you. Okay, so any insights onto this article, Arpo?
Well, they probably really hate the screenplay I'm working on right now, but apart from that, a lot of what they say makes sense.
Cool.
I disagree mostly with the Manchester feel that solid writers are an important role
Yes.
of a script. I totally disagree with that.
Yes. And now on to the next article. This one comes from Variety. Now, if you remember, again, it's like a little while back talking about Patty Jenkins and the rude way that James Cameron spoke of her and her and very nasty words that he used. Well, this article in Variety will definitely tickle everyone's fancy in regards to that, on no matter what side of the fence that you are. So much like certain Amazon goddesses with the golden lassos, there's no height there's no heights that director Patty Jenkins can't scale. As we know, that Wonder Woman made $821 million worldwide since its opening in the summer, and has become a call for women everywhere and a beacon of empowerment in a Donald Trump-led world. So yes, it's like now there's going to be a Wonder Woman 2 that she's directing, and her salary is $7 to $9 million reportedly, and record salary for a female filmmaker. Essentially, what she's getting is the same salary as what a male filmmaker would have been making in that position for film number 2. So really interesting that, and absolutely wonderful that she's getting that. And I will say kudos to Patty. Now, as she negotiated the terms of the contract over several months, she was conscious of the earning big paychecks would mean. You're, of course, aware of the money. But I felt I've never been more aware of the duty that I had was in this deal, and extremely aware that I had to make sure that I was being paid the equivalent of as a male would. So essentially what she did is she bargained for the same salary that she should have been honored the first time with. So according to recent studies, women only earn 80% of 80 cents on every dollar that a man gets. The pay gap is evident in all corners of society, even Hollywood, where A-list actresses such as Jennifer Lawrence, Charlize Theron have had to fight to be compensated in the same as their male peers. But until now, there's never been an A-list female director as much clout as Jenkins. Other women behind big live action tentpoles such as Catherine Hardwicke, Taylor Johnson, who did 50 Shades of Grey, didn't return a second installment, and the studios quickly replaced them with male directors, which is very interesting because it's like, again, you know, if these were very popular movies, so they got replaced, and that's a very telling story. You know, it's like that basically what now Patty Jenkins is doing is setting a trend forward. And maybe it's about damn time.
Oh, beyond damn time.
You
Geez,
know,
whose side are you on, woman?
yes, that's what I'm saying. It's about damn time. Because women have not been being paid equally in a lot of industries. And again, not talking from the point, I am talking from the point of the fact that it's like, yeah, she is doing equal work. She actually has worked her ass off to get to this point. Had to probably prove more than any male who had to get to this point. And you're damn straight she should be being paid in an equal basis as a man does. So it's like Gal Gadot is obviously going to be starring in this one again. And I encourage you all to read this article, by the way, so that despite the results the Women's March throughout the country, Jenkins never imagined Wonder Woman would touch such a nerve. Well, it's like I assumed it would be just a superhero film. She's in awe of the high-profile groupies that she collected along the way. When you hear about people like Hillary Clinton, Dwayne Johnson talking about you in the press, it's like, what? It's so crazy and lovely, which I would agree because, you know, a lot of I approached, like I said, seeing Wonder Woman with trepidation because it's like I saw the horrible reboot that they tried to do in 2005 poorly, and I'm like, to me, Linda Carter will always be burned in my mind as Wonder Woman. And it was nice to see a positive portrayal of that with Gal Gadot and be able to see her and see a wonderful new take and have a great empowering feeling. So they go on to talk about the movie, and then she says in here, not everybody has been a fan of Wonder Woman. After James Cameron publicly bashed the movie with a misogynistic shrug, Jenkins shot back at her own statement on social media. I actually was not upset at all, Jenkins said. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But if you're going to debate something in a public way, I have to reply that I think it's incorrect. Did Cameron reach out to apologize? No, she says. And again, shame on you, James Cameron, for that. Jenkins worked in Hollywood as a focus puller, a camera operator in her 20s. She was amongst a small group of women doing a man's job, but she wasn't aware of it. It's like I never thought about the fact that I was only a woman. Even so, she thinks it's important to mentor other women and that they try to climb the industry ladder. It's important to, it's like she says, I definitely do. But also, I feel a real objectification to be open to help everybody. And I really think that it's Wonder Woman is a loving character to all. So again, it's like all speculations about her career are understandable. The industry still has a dismal record when hiring women directors in a movie. Only 7% of the top 250 films in 2016 were directed by women. And now that's a sad figure. And that's a number smaller than you look at blockbusters. Next spring, Disney will release Ava DuVernay's adaptation of A Wrinkle in Time, which is budgeted at $100 million. But the list of directors attached to star in Star Wars franchise is all male, even though the female producer, Kathleen Kennedy, is in charge. It would depend on the project. Jenkins says when she says she wanted to direct Star Wars movie. So again, it's like I think that she would make an interesting take on a Star Wars movie. What do you think there, Arpo?
I think that it's a lot of people probably may think that Patty Jenkins came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that her last movie that she directed, I think the only other movie she directed, was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
A little thing called Monster, starring Charlize Theron.
Yep.
Just shows you the kind of quality person that she is, that 14 years later, she can come back just as strong and just as well versed as she was on her first film.
Yeah. So, very interesting stuff. So, that being said, it's like, you know what? Kudos to her. May she have a long and happy career, and may she go on to mentor many, many others in her years. And wow, just absolutely wow. And,
Yes.
honestly, people, it's like, I can't wait to see Wonder Woman 2 and see what she does. It's like, I actually am excited now to want to see a Wonder Woman movie. Unlike a Justice League movie. I don't want to see that one. Although a lot of people do.
Oh,
I don't. I want to. I don't. I refuse to see fake Aquaman and fake Batman in a movie.
wow. Fake Batman. Boy, that really hurt.
And fake Aquaman. He's not Aquaman. Not even by
Well,
any means or stretch of the imagination.
that I'll give you. But to call Ben a fake Batman?
The only real Batman that has been really, really good is Michael Keaton. He's my favorite Batman.
Oh,
I wish he would don the suit again and would have done these Justice League movies. Then it would. Then I would have. Then I would have forgiven fake Aquaman.
well, I'm going to remember you said that when I go to heaven and talk to Adam West.
Hey, he is the real TV Batman. I did not say. I did not essentially say. I said he is an awesome Batman, Adam West, for the TV. He was never a movie Batman.
Yes, he was.
They made a movie on the TV series. Not that doesn't count. Nope, it doesn't count.
You know what the movie Superman was? A movie of the TV series. Go figure.
Yep, but he did do an awesome animated version of Batman. It's like towards the end, and it's like I have to admit that retro Batman movie that I saw, that animated one. Oh my god, it was so good.
Was that the Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah.
Yes, that was an amazing, based on Frank Miller's graphic novel, and just an amazing piece of work.
It really is. It's like it's something that people should see, no matter what. And now we turn, unfortunately, to a very dark, dark subject. And as we had talked about in previous weeks, we're not going to. We will save the song that doesn't end for last. But just when we thought that it can't get any worse, when you have a Glee performer who just got served 15 years for child molestation, a singer from The Loving Spoonful who has been caught dealing with child pornography, comes Terry Crews. And Terry Crews says he was molested in Hollywood by a Hollywood executive. Once again, I will preface this with he does not name names. Why? And again, you name the name, you disarm the person's power. So he claims he was molested.
people out there that are starting to come forward and say, well, I was abused, but I was abused, but I was abused. If you don't name the name, it's not true. It's not true until you name the name.
Exactly. And as far as that
Sorry to be
goes,
so harsh, but that's just the way I feel.
well, and for me, it's the you don't name the name, it's you're allowing them to continue. You may as well have not said anything about it at all.
Exactly. Put your money in the back of the corner.
The most empowering thing to a victim of anything is to name their accuser. Whether the
Yeah,
accuser is convicted or not, it to have their name out there already destroys their power over them and destroys their power, period. So Terry Crews claims that he's been molested by a Hollywood mogul in front of his wife. Basically, he said that he was it's like he's a former football player, if anybody knows who he is.
yes.
And
In a number of very big movies, including The Expendables, all the Expendables movies. Well, he's kind of turned to comedy too. It's very funny.
yes, and he says that he was molested, as he says, unnamed. And notice he says the word unnamed, high-level profile executive, saying he was inappropriately grabbed in front of his wife, Rebecca. Well, okay, why isn't his wife, Rebecca, saying the name then? In a series of Twitter posts, he admits he decided to speak about the incident because of the sexual harassment allegations against Harvey Weinstein. Explained this whole thing of Harvey Weinstein is giving me PTSD. Why? Because of the kind of thing that happened to me. Well, now here's the problem with this. If it's giving you PTSD, then why not say it? Because if people can talk about Harvey Weinstein, why not say who this other mogul was? Let's get him out, too.
That's right. Let him go.
Yeah. And basically, he says he was at a Hollywood function. And it's like he basically, this Hollywood executive came over to him and grabbed his junk. He says, groped his privates. Well, yeah, that means
You
grabbing
don't
his
fuck.
penis.
You don't fuck with the junk, folks.
Yes. So jumping back, I said, what are you doing? And my wife saw everything. We looked at him like he was crazy. He grinned like a jerk. And he said I was going to kick his ass right then and there, but then thought twice about it, thinking that there would be a Hollywood story that said, Black man stomps on Hollywood honcho. Would be the headline the next day. Well, hello. Okay, what would have followed up was the story, and he grabbed my junk. Okay, and his wife would have backed him up on this. You know, it's like, really, seriously. So he called the next day to apologize, but never really explained why he did it. And so they're basically, he said, despite his outrage, Terry decided against taking the matter further, which claims was a typical response in the Hollywood circles of such behavior. Okay, now if this is the case, then again, why bring it up now? Then why not just say it, who the person is?
Yes. Okay, people are speaking out against Harvey Weinstein. Now's your chance.
Yeah.
Say who it is.
Yep. And, decided to drop it, really, then what you're doing is giving them permission to keep doing it. Because if you don't even make mention of it or take it further, it's like and he says, I love what I do. And what, it's like he loves what he does. He says, I let it go. And I understand why many women in this is happening, happens to let it go. Well, you know what? They don't let it go. Sometimes they're told and they're paid off in suppression to let it go. And again, those who accept bribe money from people like that essentially say, yeah, I'm allowing you to do that. You may need the money, but you know what? You need your self-esteem much more. And believe me, you'll get much more out of it in the civil suit. So, which is essentially the way there. Now, what was interesting to me is what some of the audience, what some of the commentaries were of this article. And I found the reaction to it to be a very interesting one. A lot of them were like, why weren't you naming the names? Did this actually happen if this is the way that it happened? So there was a lot of interesting commentaries on this.
I didn't see any commentaries on mine.
It was on the earlier articles during MSN Entertainment. They had since removed a lot of these commentaries. Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. But here's the thing that gets to me. He says he knows who he is, but sometimes you have to wait and compare notes with others who have been victimized in order to gain a position of strength. Well, how are you going to compare notes with others who have been victimized if you won't say who's doing the victimizing?
Exactly.
If you come out with, I mean, it took one person coming out with Harvey Weinstein, and suddenly dozens of people were stepping forward.
Yes. And I say kudos to Ashley Judd for coming forward. I say kudos to all of them who are coming forward and giving their stories of what's going on. As a matter of fact, it also taints forward to the scandal that's become a nightmare for Affleck and Damon, where it's like Ben Affleck has also gone on to the same kind of behavior as well as Matt Damon, or have been accused of that same kind of behavior. Since when does this become acceptable? That would be my question.
Since Ben Affleck has now apologized before anybody has had a chance to accuse him of it.
Well, fake Batman has a lot of chances to apologize if he'd actually come out and be truthful about it. And he says, and his mea culpa is, I acted inappropriately.
He
Really?
did, but
Yeah.
that's a bit weak.
Yeah. I could think of a stronger statement than that.
Maybe like, I was an accident.
Yes.
Maybe like, I'm a warmonger and I don't deserve to live.
Maybe no. Yep.
I certainly don't deserve to be Batman.
Yes. How about maybe no amount of, how about also the words, maybe no amount of apology can ever erase the fact of what I did, in essence, and I am so sorry for what I did. And I have decided that therapy is my better way of doing this.
And here's an idea. Apologize publicly to everyone you did it to by name.
Yes. Or write an open letter, essentially telling about your bad behavior, as long as it hasn't hit the illegal side. Immoral side has already happened. As long as it hasn't hit the illegal side, pretty safe to write an open letter to them of apology. Or to write them even a private letter and give it to them and say, I have been an idiot. So basically, the Oscar-winning producer has been accused by stars like, and again, there's been allegations done that way, and it's like, it saddens and angers a man who's worked in his position of power, and it basically intimidated and has harassed and manipulated so many people. Well, great, that's the teapot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
And the only redeeming quality is that he says we must support those who come forward and condemn those types of behaviors when we see it, and help ensure that they are more women in positions of power, which is great. But at the same time, that's a little too late if you've engaged in the exact same behavior. Clearly, he wasn't thinking about his daughters when he left them to gallivant with the nanny. is what a lot of them say. So there is a lot of controversy that is going with that. Basically talking about, cheating on people, his infidelities, etc. It's like, that's really bad. It's like, seriously, thank you for all that. I was a kid, and One Tree Hill alum who is expecting his second child with husband Jeffrey Dean Morgan, followed up by sharing a video on TRL Uncensored where she talks about the incident. This woman who Hillary Burton. So it is sad, and it's not the only vintage footage of the actor making rounds today. Shortly after Burton, clips of headlines did Affleck acting, surfaces. It's like, basically, if you've done this kind of behavior, you're the teapot calling the kettle black, and essentially should be kept with the same swing. Fake Batman. So, Waxman, ironically, was writing for the New York Times and reported on the behavior last week. There is, like, basically a lot of stuff that has been going on, and those who support and those who do not support. But yes, essentially, if you're going to be this volatile, name names. Do the right thing. Call these people out. Because they deserve to be called out. So would you love to now, in our segue portion, introduce our very first part of Harvey Weinstein? Gee, what a fool you are.
Well, gosh, it's a times like this I wish we had a recording of the theme song from the never-ending story.
Yes.
I love that movie. And I
Yes.
wasn't even a kid when it came out. Well,
yep.
After the New York Times did all their little short piece on Mr. Weinstein, the New Yorker comes out, and they claim that Weinstein forcibly performed or received oral sex and also first vaginal sex on women. It also contains on-the-record accounts from Mira Sorvino and Rosanna Arquette of encounters or business meetings with Weinstein that devolved into being propositioned sexually. The deeply reported story will likely exacerbate Weinstein's problems at a time when reports of previous instances of harassment have left him ostracized in Hollywood and fighting for his professional life.
And for all of those who aren't aware, yes, he was fired from his own company on Sunday.
Yes.
To which I say kudos to the board members who are strong enough to actually do this. So there is some positive news for you in this story. To follow up on all of that information, basically he is being accused of also raping several of these people, though he calls it allegations of consensual sex.
Consensual has to be on both parties there, Harvey, not just you.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, let's try going through the whole entire, lovely parts of that.
Yes.
So,
and the list grows ever longer.
Yes.
Asia Argento. Let's move down the list here. Let's see. Oh, yes, I do. Cara Delevingne, who co-starred in Valeria.
Yep.
My goodness. It just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Thank goodness his wife standing beside him and helping him to become a better person and to deal with these horrible things that he's done.
Ah,
He has a wife that will do that for him.
ha! And yet at the same time, Harvey Weinstein's wife, Georgina Chapman, is leaving him. My heart breaks for all the women who suffered. Yeah, this is her standing by her man. Basically, yeah, it's like she's basically saying that she married him in 2007 and that she wants people to respect her privacy at the time. I'm sorry, where was your lack of privacy, of open publicness when your husband was doing this sort of shit? So it's like she goes, my heart breaks for all the women who have suffered the tremendous pain because of these unforgivable actions. It's like I've chosen to leave my husband, caring for my young children and my first priority, and ask the media for privacy at this time. It's funny when the money runs out how she's moved on. In the wake of the allegations, the New York Times reported who have been denied allegations of unconscious acts. Initially, Chapman was standing behind her man. Well, it's like it says she stands 100% behind me, Georgina, and I've talked at great length, Weinstein told the Post, and I apologize to the people for the bad behavior, basically trying to mea culpa and saying that he mean it. So, okay, only in the light of the new information of misconduct by Harvey Weinstein has emerged a few days later, and the fact he was fired from his company, Georgina is now left his sorry butt. And it's like the company terminated effective immediately, Weinstein said, and they may be wanting to change the name from the Weinstein Company. I mean, even his own brother Bob is condemning him.
Well, Bob's no better than he is.
No, Bob is not better than he is. Okay, the New York Times reports that they ran last week includes actress Ashley Judd, who spoke against Weinstein, accusing him of sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior. Rose McGowan, Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie. Need we go on and on and on and on? That reporter, that wonderful reporter person, who talked about him masturbating in front of her.
My
yes.
God. There's no one to defend him.
Yes. Oh, sure there is.
To defend him. There is.
There is no. Yes, who should be his absolute hero, but his potential third wife, Lindsay Lohan.
Yes. Nothing like using the scandal of the moment to try to show yourself back into the spotlight. But that's exactly what troubled actress Lindsay Lohan did, posting then deleting an Instagram video in support of accused sexual predator and alleged rapist Harvey Weinstein. Perhaps she thought it would help her career. Maybe Harvey will give her a role in one of those upcoming movies if he ever ventures back into the spotlight. Who knows what was coming out of the head of Lindsay Lohan when she jumped on Instagram late Tuesday night to tell everyone to just stop it. Too many people are picking on Mr. Weinstein, and she doesn't like it. Some big stars have come out swinging, with many A-list actresses like Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie describing their awful sexual encounters with Weinstein, while some male celebrities have also jumped forward to condemn the man, many of whom have worked directly for the co-founder of the Weinstein Company, formerly Miramax, which ignited the indie movie craze in the 90s. The producer is accused of assaulting and harassing many women over several decades, and in the past week, he's been accused of rape by several women, including Dario and the daughter of Dario Argento, Asia Argento, who once even made a low-budget movie about her encounter behind closed doors with Weinstein.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really knows why Lindsay Lohan would support and try to protect Harvey Weinstein, but she did it, and that is certainly causing some controversy. Recording the video from her home in Dubai, the actress had this to say. I feel very bad for Harvey Weinstein right now. I don't think it's right what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It was announced yesterday that Harvey Weinstein's wife, Georgina Chapman, is leaving the admitted producer. Lowell had faced this as an injustice and pointed parts of her message directly at Chapman. Even though a divorce is pending, Lindsay tells the woman that she needs to take a stand and be there for her husband,
Mm-hmm. Really? Is
just
this
as
the
she did with,
1950s?
just as she did when Lohan went viral attempting to make Disney for Roland's Ariel in their upcoming live-action Little Mermaid movie. Lindsay later deleted the bizarre post, perhaps coming to her senses. Though
Yes.
it's lifted long enough for everyone to see, as you can still watch the video in the YouTube embed below. Ooh, I'll have to check that out.
There you go.
Weinstein's heading for Europe because he got thrown out of his daughter's house this morning.
Yes. Well, now where he'll seek asylum, like the way that Roman Polanski did.
Well, he'll seek treatment, quote unquote, for his actions.
Well, let's face it, seek asylum so that he doesn't actually come to fruition of any actions by North American people like Roman Polanski did. I don't think we're going to be seeing Harvey Weinstein in America any longer. He'll go on to molest people in other countries. So here's a great one. The rumor is she slept with him to get the part. The reality is uglier. With regards to Gwyneth Paltrow. That's really disgusting that they could even suggest it. Okay, so now this is going to come to the next header of let's objectify and demoralize the people who are actually accusing this man to try and call this behavior justifiable. In what world is this behavior justifiable?
I think there's one about 20 parallel universes over. It's a pretty bad story to begin with.
Okay. Well, it's a very sad state. It's a very sad state of affairs when it comes there. And it's like, I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, that is like, let's not vilify the victims and start dragging them through the mud. There is no excuse for that.
Yes.
What
everyone needs to stop. It's the people who are trying to blow holes in the victims' stories. I'm saying, when this many people come forward, I mean, this is more women coming forward than accused Bill Cosby of rape.
And unfortunately,
he's been blacklisted for life.
Yes. And it's a sad state of affairs.
It is.
And I mean, honestly, let's not vilify them, people. And it's like, I'm sad that the victims in Bill Cosby's case did not get justice. That some fools actually let the man out. I'm sad that it's like O.J. Simpson is released from prison after serving far too little time for killing 2 people. It's like, sorry, but it's like that is the way that I feel, that it's like you commit the crime, you really should be doing the action for the crime and to its full sentence.
In order to be entirely legal here, you have to say unfortunately killed 2 people because it was not.
Yes. And I mean, honestly, it's like you do that sort of thing, then yeah, there really should be no sympathy for you. And there shouldn't be a celebrity getaway simply because you are a celebrity. That it gets to become excusable behavior. Because the behavior that Weinstein has shown, the behavior that Bill Cosby has shown, the behavior that the guy from Glee has shown, It's like basically that's beyond disgusting and beyond the pale. It's like and the guy from Loving Spoonful. It's like really child porn. Okay, it is because it's like essentially those children are potentially being trafficked. It's like even if they're not, it's like the idea that you can condone watching child porn as an adult is a disgusting thing. Children are not sexual objects. They're children. They're innocent lives that deserve people's protection, not people's essential demoralizing. It is not a sexual preference or proclivity. It is a disgusting behavior that it is a psychological derangement. And really deserves, it's like you only need to look at your own child to realize that they are not an object of that. And would you want it to happen to your own children? That's why I say to them, it's like, do you want it to happen to other people, other women, other men in this industry? We really need people getting their junk groped at parties and stuff like that? Start naming names, people. Bring it forward. Show these people that they don't lord power over you. Because honestly, they really don't.
But they're scary.
Yeah. Sadly, they might be. So that said, Arpo, how do the people get you in social media?
Gosh, I don't even remember anymore. But I think it had something to do with if you want to be social, you can reach me on Facebook. If you want to do business, you can reach me on LinkedIn. But remember, kids, LinkedIn is not a dating site.
Yes.
If you just want to chat with me, you can always just Skype me. I love to chat on Skype. I talk to people all the time on Skype. But you gotta let me know that you are a fan of Movietime because I get way too many invitations to marriage from Armenian women and invitations to pass out my charge card number to robots. Evil robots.
Yes. Also, it's like as a note to YouTube, could you please return back our account? We did nothing wrong in regards to that, and really, we're having a censorship on YouTube. So, you as our fans, please write in and insist that YouTube reactivate the show in question from Jerome Kershaw. So it's like, yes, please also make sure that you do write in and show your distaste for YouTube's policies.
It was a really great show.
It was, and nothing offensive was done in it. So, and you can reach me on LinkedIn, Visipedia, on Facebook, on Twitter at Sonata Grayson, at Movietime Indie, at www.pastlivesproductionsinc.net, or as I say, with 4 pages of footprint. If you can't find me, you're just not stalking me hard enough. So with that being said, we will talk to you on next Wednesday.
And in the meantime, let us hope that others who have been abused in Hollywood will take the example of those who have spoken up against